All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Super Cinema. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look who we got. We got T Sherry and T Sherry.
We got the two T Sherrys in the building.
Hey, my man's growing up.
Hey, Theodore. This is debut. It's live debut.
I love it. The debut of Theodore Sherry. We got two guests for you this evening, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get right into it. We're talking about the Suicide Squad. You saw it? When'd you see it?
Oh, I saw it Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Yeah,
First showing?
first showing.
Okay, I saw it on Saturday.
Yeah.
So let's go straight into a non-spoiler review.
Okay.
Non-spoiler review for everybody. What'd you think?
So, really enjoyed it. I mean, this is kind of strange that we're getting a remake of a movie that originally came out almost like 3 years ago or something like that. So it's kind of strange. Yeah, 5 years ago. So it's kind of strange that we're getting a reboot so soon. But this movie, I think, is night and day difference between the original one and this one. I thought it was great. And the one word I would use to describe it is funny. I think it's just a funny movie from start to finish.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely had that huge element of humor. I think we all expected that with it being a James Gunn film.
Mm-hmm.
I take my glasses off. Yeah, I think we definitely expected that, and it definitely lived up to it. I saw, because at first I was getting kind of like, all right, is this a reboot completely? Is this is it a sequel? What is it? And people were saying, well, it's not a sequel, but it's not a reboot. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, what is it? It's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
And I seen a thing that said it was pretty much like a standalone sequel. So I guess you could say that. I mean, it had its like very, very subtle, like I don't not even mention, but kind of ways that tied it into the first film where you were like, okay, this is a sequel, but it wasn't like a direct sequel of that movie. Definitely. And then even some of the characters were a bit different. Like, Amanda Waller was one of the shared characters. Thought she was a little bit crazier in this one.
She was a little ruthless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely in the first one. I mean, I felt like it was definitely the same character, but in this one she just acted a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And then who else do we had? We had Rick Flag,
Harley Quinn, and then Captain Boomerang. Those were the characters.
All the shared characters.
Yeah, all the shared characters. But I think they both had like the same number of characters, like in total with the Suicide Squad or close to it. But the way that they went about, like I said, there's the night and day difference about how they went about introducing the characters and dismissing some of those characters. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, definitely, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this movie itself, if we compare it to that 2016 version, was definitely a lot better. But there's been a lot of controversy with that 2016 version. And regarding the quote Ayer cut. It's a movie by David Ayer. They're saying that similar to the Zack Snyder Justice League, we've seen something like that. Is that the same thing that you've been seeing?
Yeah. And I actually saw something else that was kind of crazy too, that they said that in 2021 we're getting re-releases of these movies that we already got that were released, but it's almost like as they were the re-release that we're getting in 2021 are the real versions of the movies that we should have got.
Yeah, definitely. And and from what I see, it's just that almost fascist like oversight that we're getting from WB. And I mean, we talked about it like crazy on the what was it, the Snyder Cut episode?
Yeah.
But essentially what it is, for those who don't know, are these people, these execs, we call them the suits. Explain to them what the suits are.
The suits are pretty much the people that try to pull strings to make the money. They think that they're sticking to this agenda. They want to just stick to what they think the people want and what they think they're trending on Twitter, all the things that they want to get and throw it into this movie, as opposed to just letting some of the directors have the creative freedom to do what they want with the movie. And at the end of the day, they know a little bit more than the suits know when it comes to like this comic book lore and these stories that they're directing. So at the end of the day, it only makes sense. Like, hey, give 100% creative control to those who are creating the movie, not the people that, you know, are saying they're like, oh, we can make a lot of money off of this, and that sit behind a desk all day and don't know nothing about nothing, essentially.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much exactly what it is. I chalked it up to they're looking for that Marvel formula over at WB because they see how much success has been in it, and maybe that's one of the reasons that they granted James Gunn this creative freedom and you know no oversight was because they said, okay, we saw how well you did with Guardians of the Galaxy, you go ahead and do it. You know, we're able to pick you up as a director. I mean, really, I think that's what they should be doing all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Just take a step back. You know, once you're going to green light a movie and you pick a director for this movie and you get a script, take a step back.
That's
you know
it.
What I'm saying? Just
Yeah.
let these guys do what they want to do. Obviously, you picked them to direct this film for a reason. You thought that they had an eye for it. So trust in them. Trust the process.
And I mean, the biggest example is Zack Snyder's Justice League. We saw firsthand how they just took an axe and butchered the whole entire movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then when we finally, unprecedentedly got to see the director's cut of that movie that they butchered, I don't even want to say it was night and day. It was like, you know, black versus white, you know, the before the universe to after the universe. Like,
yeah,
it was just such a difference.
And the thing that I think is comical about it, even after, you know, seeing everything, is I'm hearing these things pop up over at Warner Brothers, and they're saying that, oh, I didn't understand why, just to jump over to the Snyder Cut, they didn't understand some of the decisions that Zack Snyder made. And it was just like, if you're a comic book fan, you know that the Flash can time travel. So that when he threw that in the movie and the Warner Brothers executive was just like, oh, that doesn't really make that much sense to me. That's why you're not behind the camera. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's one of the main reasons why. So don't cut it out. Don't, you know, talk trash about this or that. Give the director the creative freedom to do what they want and look at the outcome. You know what I mean? Between the two movies, the two DC movies that we've gotten this year, or ultimately remakes of original movies that Warner Brothers put out and now the directors are putting out. And you can see the difference.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, even though this movie wasn't exactly the other movie, it was pretty much a do-over. You know, this is your second chance, which, I mean, when do we ever see that in movies?
Never.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same title.
Yeah, we talked about it with the Snyder Cut. Like, this is something that's never happened before, that the fans can literally have their voice heard to a point through platforms on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, to a point where the whole studio is just like, you know what? They're right. Let's try to do it over again. So, and
honestly, this Suicide Squad movie, I mean, this is a movie that nobody asked for.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody asked for this. I don't know where they decided to be like, all right, well, I guess we'll green light this because it's James Gunn. I guess he saw that other movie and was like, listen, I really want to make a movie with these characters. And I saw something that some of the decisions and the characters that he chose was he just went on Google and typed in DC's dumbest characters.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love that because I mean, I'm down for DC all day, every day, but I will admit that they have a lot of corny villains, bro. I mean, you ever watch The Flash, the show?
Yeah.
All it is just the corniest villains, bro.
Yeah, so that's where I first saw King Shark.
What did you say? Would you say Kite Man?
Kite Man, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Like him, Polka Dot Man, like some of their characters are just corny as
I think it's funny how, you know, with what happened with Snyder Cut, how they were able to come back and like remake a movie, essentially, that they weren't like, you know what, let's do Green Lantern over again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's do something that's a central universe. But I don't know. Maybe they're just toying around, seeing what they can do. Because I know that there has been rumors of them like trying to revamp the DC universe. So who knows what they're going to do in the future? If this is going to be canon, if this is just going to be, like you said, a standalone sequel.
I think it is canon for sure. But what you had mentioned before is you said there was something comical about these execs, right? So there's something that I want to share real quick. And this is, I mean, when we talk about comical, check this out. Give me 1 second. Boom. All right. You can see the screen?
Yeah.
It's saying David Goyer, who was the writer for Man of Steel. He said when WB asked not to destroy Superman's pod to bring down Zod's ship. And we're talking about like this is when they go, hey, we're gonna play this rough cut of the movie to the suits, and then this is where the suits go in with their little troll hands and fingers and start picking apart the movie, right?
Yeah.
WB Suits asked not to destroy Superman's pod to bring down Zod's ship in Man of Steel because they asked, how is he ever going to get back to Krypton? He goes, there was a long pause and we said, Krypton blew up. You saw 30 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Bro, are you serious? These are the guys that are making the decisions of these movies? Like, dude, the whole first 30 minutes was dramatic. Epic. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You see right here where Laura was just she knew her impending doom.
Yeah.
The whole planet exploded. And this guy, it's like, are you even watching the same movie?
Yeah. It's crazy because it's like, yo, that's the only time we ever see like really Krypton in a movie. And then they do this whole thing. They build this whole environment, these characters, this hierarchy. They'd introduce the relationship between Zod and Superman's family. And then it's just like, they forgot all about that. It was just like, you know what? Let me just ask a question just to make myself relevant in this meeting right now.
Because he's like the meme where you want to throw him out of the window.
Yeah, this is exactly that meme. Where, exactly. Get that guy out of here. Get that guy
bro.
Out of
get
here.
this corn out of my face, man. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, what do you think Zod's doing on Earth? Do you think he's just hanging out? He came to visit?
He's just,
he's trying to rebuild Krypton.
Yeah.
It's like the whole basis of the movie.
Even though we're making jokes about it now, that's kind of, it's upsetting, thinking that these guys are the ones that are ultimately making the main decisions for DC, and they can't even pay the respect to the writers and the directors to pay attention to what's going on.
It's disappointing, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, honestly, it's just disrespectful.
Yeah, mad disrespect.
The fact that you think that you can sit here and puppet string this movie and pick it apart, and you didn't even watch the beginning.
Yeah. When you were sleeping?
Yeah, right? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
This guy a friend of yours? So that being said, I want to move on to the spoiler section.
Okay.
Of this talk.
Into it. Yeah.
Wee. Spoiler alert. Anybody out there hasn't seen this movie? That being said, if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie.
Yeah.
You don't have any.
HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max. I would suggest to go see it in the theater. Even if you're afraid of Corona, it's like, dude, nobody's at the movies.
And they separate everybody, so you're good. You have a whole row to yourself.
Yeah, like nobody's there. I know me. I went and saw it at Epic Theater, reclining seats. We saw the XL with the whole screen. Nobody was near us.
There you go.
So,
jumping into it. For spoiler alert. All right, so in the very beginning of the movie, they introduced this character who I have no idea about. And I think that we kind of touched on it before. The majority of the characters in here, I had no idea anything about them. I knew a handful of them because they were in other movies or they've been in comic books before. But for the most part, had no idea. So then as we're coming in, we're following this character who I don't even remember the name. We're following him around, and then he kind of just gets thrown into the mission. And I'm kind of like, all right, this is moving kind of quickly. And then bodies just getting dropped.
Dude, Pete Davidson, right after he sold everybody out.
Oh my gosh. He gets his face blown off in the most gruesome fashion I think I've ever seen, like in a comic book movie.
Beautifully.
Before. Oh, and that's how they set the tone. I'm saying we're 15 minutes in the movie. Pete Davidson got his face shot off, and then it's going down. People in the squad are dying left and right. We lose Captain Boomerang, who I thought was
that was crazy. And to me,
squad.
It was almost like a metaphor in kind of destroying the remnants of the last movie.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they just killed. Like he was one of the. I mean, obviously, you're not killing Harley, and we were pretty sure they weren't going to kill Rick Flag.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, I knew that. I thought that those were the big three that were going to be untouchable. And a part of me was thinking Idris Elba was untouchable, but I'm like, they could build him up to be the big character to chop.
Once people started dropping, at that point, I was like, you know what,
nobody's safe.
Yeah, and it was great because it kept me on my toes. Like when Ratcatcher was shaking Shark's hand for like way too long. I was sitting there like, is he about to rip her arm off?
Yeah. So I love that James Gunn set the tone first 15 minutes, first 20 minutes, that this is not Suicide Squad that you're used to. This is his rendition of it. And I guess symbolically, he killed the last version when he got rid of Captain Boomerang. The fact that they set that up, I was like, okay, so I was
I
all in
loved it,
for it.
man. I thought it was
Yeah.
great. And something to say about that was in the last one, I think like one person died, or maybe two people died, right?
Yeah.
Didn't like Diablo like sacrifice himself or something?
Diablo sacrificed himself, and then
The
Whiplash
one,
like tried to skate off,
yeah, and
then
they
he got his
blew
head
him up,
blown
and
off.
then that
Yeah.
was it. But for
yeah, exactly.
the whole basis of like the Suicide Squad is like these guys are supposed to be expendable, you know?
Yeah, and
And
they did it right. Like I'm saying, for the first 20
first
minutes,
scene,
yeah, they did it right with that.
yeah, to the point where the one dude was like, "Oh my god, I can't handle
He
this."
literally goes, "Yo, what is happening right now?"
He turns around, and he starts swimming, and they just blow his brains out.
Yeah,
Bro, and
so,
it was just, I mean, gruesome. Like the detachable kid.
So let me just say that was the one point where I knew I was like, okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this chaos of this first like scene, and I'm like, oh, this is different, but I still don't know it's a comedy. But once I saw the and they started the hovering,
Started hitting him,
like,
and then his arms are getting shot up, and he's just there like
around, yeah, withering on the ground. I knew. I was like, okay, and I started laughing at that point, and I had a continuous chuckle throughout the remainder of the film. But
oh, it was crazy, bro. It was like war.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah,
but then, okay, Betty, let me get Teddy real quick. Tell me what you think about pretty much that after that first chaos, they pretty much just threw that at us to set the tone, and then I feel like the movie officially started after that. So what did you think about that going into that first scene?
Yeah, so man, I think like you said, it definitely set the tone. For sure. Hey Teddy. Yeah, definitely set the tone. And then from there, like I said, man, it was just like you don't know who's gonna die, who's gonna live, you know, really what's gonna happen in general, you know. Teddy, who do you think? Who was your MVP of the movie?
He said Waller. Okay.
You like Waller?
He liked Waller. Okay. That's you know, when I think about who my favorite character was, and out of everybody that we got, at the end of the day, with like the character development and everybody that we got, I think Peacemaker was my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Well, he's got a spinoff coming.
Yeah, when they first introduced him, I was like, yo, he's corny. And a handful of the characters gave us like a real comic book feel. And he was the one who kind of did. And he kind of carried that out through the whole movie. Even after they took off their costumes, when they went to go back to save Harley, this guy put his helmet back on. Like it was actually going to do anything. I thought that was hilarious.
His beacon of freedom, bro.
Yeah. He's the man. And so in the beginning, I was just like, okay, he was kind of just like cheesy, and everything that he said was kind of just like, oh, I stand for justice no matter what I got to do. And then at the end of the day, he was really about that action. He was like, yo, I have to do what I have to do to defend the nation. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And then he went one-on-one with Flag, kills him. That was crazy. The fact that they killed him.
Would have killed Ratcatcher if it went down to it.
Oh, he was about to blow her brains out right there. Yeah. And one of the things that, you know, with Bloodsport saving her, one of the things I liked about that was how Bloodsport and Peacemaker were almost like a yin and yang to each other. Like they had like the same bios.
Yeah.
Same MySpace about me.
Yeah.
And they were both going back and forth the whole time. I like that because Bloodsport, I mean, I think we agree that was almost kind of like the replacement of Will Smith.
Yeah. It's another black mercenary. Yeah.
You think Will Smith is a little salty?
No, I wouldn't say salty. I mean, he's Will Smith. He's the man. He's Mike Lowry at the end of the day. But I think it's just at the end of the day, it was the writing, you know, and how they wrote the characters. Okay, it's okay, Teddy.
Hey, Teddy.
With okay, I'm gonna go take care of him. I'll be back, Ray. I'll be right back. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Teddy has just left us momentarily, but I will go ahead and move forward a little bit. A few other things about this movie that I definitely liked. I liked how Harley Quinn had, you know, a little bit of a different look. There was more of a classic Harley compared to the other Harley with the cotton candy. That was a little bit different. Hold up.
Mom's back, so we're good.
Okay, Mama's back. I was just saying we had a little bit of change in the characters. Obviously, we saw Um, we saw Mike Lowry was switched out with Idris Elba. I thought Idris Elba killed it.
Yeah.
Personally, I thought he did such a great job. I thought the character development in the movie was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they even character developed King Shark to the point. I mean, not to the point where they were talking about him and John Constantine or nothing, but
they're not building up that much. But
they didn't go that far.
I agree, and I liked how they kind of the way that they build up some of the characters were, like I said before, like, and they kept that comic book vibe, how they had that origin story and they built up. But then with Idris Elba and his Bloodsport character, he was like kind of a step back and like looking in, like he was reading this comic and was just like, yo, what is going on? I'm working with this guy. Yeah, I'm gonna die. You know what I'm saying? He was the only one that I felt like was like standing outside looking in at what
he had his head on straight.
Yeah, it really was. And he was just like, goodness, like, are we really gonna do this? And even at the end, when he decided to, actually like be a hero, he was even took a step. He's like, all right, here we go. We got to do this. I can't believe I'm about to do this too. Like, he couldn't believe the situation that he didn't even want to be in, because he was saying no the whole time, and the situation he ended up getting thrown into. So,
Bloodsport, exactly.
Yeah, and I see that the internet is kind of talking about what DC is going to do now that they've introduced Deadshot, Slade Wilson, and now Bloodsport. You got all these characters that they can do something with. I mean, I wouldn't mind like an HBO miniseries with them like terrorizing Gotham or something like that with the 3 actors. I mean, we're already getting a spinoff with Peacemaker. Who's to say we can't get other things,
I don't know. My hopes aren't too high. I definitely want to. I think the next episode that we're going to do is going into the future of DC. Yeah. Because there's a few things. I guess some are positive, some are negative, because these suits don't know what they're doing.
They're not watching the same movies, clearly.
I know, right? But man, what was I gonna say? Moving forward, I saw something here. I want to share this as well. Hold on. I want to share this right here. And it was CNN Business saying Suicide Squad underperformed at the box office. Here's why. So apparently Suicide Squad only did 26.5 million at the North American box office and then 72.2 worldwide, but they were projected to make 30 million so far. Now this movie, I like the fact that CNN Business doesn't completely just say like, oh, the movie sucked, this is why. Mm-hmm. But it talks about, the HBO Max being streamed on there. Also, the fact that the rising COVID cases from the Delta variant are growing. So people are probably not going to the movies as much anymore. But that being said, I mean, what do you think attributed to this movie not really doing as well? Do you think it had to do with do you think it had to do with COVID? Do you think it had to do with the fact that its title is the same as a movie that already kind of flopped?
Yeah, I think both of those. I think that the fact that, there was a huge spike in this new COVID cases, a lot of people kind of stayed away from going to the movies. But the fact that this movie had already initially came out and then is getting re-released, and people saw the first one, they're like, I'm not going to rush to the movies to see this movie again after the first one kind of flopped. So I think that's kind of the case. I do think that with HBO Max, they could, because there's this whole situation going on with Disney Plus where they charge like,
and Scarlett Johansson and stuff too,
stuff like that. So I think that they kind of wanted to avoid that and just release it outright, as opposed to just selling the movie to HBO Max subscribers for $30 so they can watch it. But I think that if they kind of did do that, that a lot of people would have tuned in. A lot of people would have paid money to watch it from home or something along those lines. And they could have used that money, added that to the North American box office numbers to kind of spike those numbers up. But I mean, I don't think that you can really, with everything that's going on, I see like, oh, the top box office movie of the week is so-and-so, and it made 17 million. And I'm like, we're talking about 2 years ago, a movie broke $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? So
crazy.
Now we're talking about 17 mil. So I was like,
So that being said, when it comes to the future of the Suicide Squad, right? Obviously, James Gunn, definitely hit a home run on this one. I would say we agree on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is do the suits see it that way? Because you got the good reviews, you got the certified fresh, you got everybody talking about it, but right now that's not translating in ticket sales now due to whatever factors. So do the suits look at this and go, hey, we have a good movie? Or do they look at just the numbers and say, it didn't quite do as well I wanted it to do?
Unfortunately, I think that they just look at the numbers.
Yeah.
I think that they probably have another team that's probably trying to figure out another way to make more money off it. If it is going the same route that Disney Plus is doing and have only exclusive titles that you pay a little extra to watch, if they're going to do that or something to make a little bit more money. But if everything else says it's a duck, it's a duck. You know what I mean? This is not a bad movie. This is, people like it. The certified fresh reviewers like it. It's just not translating over where it's most important is in the wallet. So I think
so we have to see what's going on with these streams. Like, how much did they attribute the streams, and kind of like Spotify and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they've pretty much changed the game as far as streaming goes. So with this,
and the fact that how much been, like, thrown into doing that, and they have, like, because of COVID, they weren't able to prepare to. What's crazy is HBO stands for home box office. They should have been the first ones to think of some stuff
to be doing this, right?
You know what I mean? But what do I know? We're just two vloggers. You know what I mean? So,
I know, right? Yeah, you don't know nothing.
But so I think that eventually they'll figure out a way to make it translate into the executive pockets where they think it's most important. But until then, I think that DC, they're still going to be trying to work things out, I guess, and we might not be able to see a sequel to Suicide Squad, or maybe these other spinoffs, or what do they call it? It's like sequels, standalone sequels that you and I would love to get.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Honestly, when it comes to DC, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they know what they're doing, and who knows? I think in that, like I said, in the next podcast, we could talk about that quite a bit and see where, because remember, they came out with a whole list of movies that they were going to do and did maybe 2 of them and just threw all the other ones down the drain. But that being said, I want to ask you about this, and this is the potential sequel, as long as they bring James Gunn on to do it, which I think they will as well. Let me go ahead and share this for you. So this is what James Gunn said almost happened. He said James Gunn's initial idea was to make the Suicide Squad versus Superman movie. Gunn wants to direct it if WB/DC ever greenlit this idea as a sequel. And here's a quote. James Gunn says, "When I started writing the Suicide Squad, one idea was that they would fight Superman. The squad has to catch Superman for some reason. It was all just a vague idea. It is out of control, or something is controlling it. And then this group of lousy supervillains has to compete against the most powerful hero in the world. I like this idea, and if DC does a sequel, then please not without me." Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that if they do a sequel, it's not going to be without him, right?
Agreed.
What do you think about this idea of Suicide Squad versus Superman as a sequel?
I think that, first things first, the first thing that comes to my mind is the nightmare sequence that we've been getting from Zack Snyder. And if they were able to tie in the two to keep it canon, and had, Superman go mad and they need somebody to, bring him back down. Batman's off the grid. He's collecting his own group of heroes. So they need people that the government can literally, like, they're expendable. The government can throw out there and just be like, hey, do what you can, and have Superman rip through them. That would be awesome.
Yo, imagine they made Justice League 2, and it was about like the whole nightmare thing, but the Suicide Squad sequel was like a tie-in to it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Them fighting they had to fight Superman.
Like real comic book-esque, if they did it like that. This is the story. But you know, this is like obviously this is still going to happen in the same universe. So let's talk about that. Yeah,
that would be sick. But who knows? Like I said, I have no faith really in DC or the WB execs.
yeah.
Really, WB execs right now because or WBC. I don't have any faith
Right.
in them. I mean, that's a different podcast though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have no faith in them. Any last words?
No. Sorry about Teddy, but babies will be babies.
Oh no, he's good, man.
But yeah, I'm glad we got to do this live. I'm glad we got to chop it up about a DC movie. You and I kind of favor DC a little bit more, but they always haven't been like on the ball. But 2021, I feel like has been a great year for DC movies so far.
They've had the best two movies, really the only two movies. But...
Yeah, right. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they got moving forward. We got a lot of Marvel coming out, and something that's really been on my mind a lot lately is this trailer for Spider-Man. Are they going to drop it? Are they not going to drop it? They better, if they do, win. If they don't, good for them, because I'm already going to go see the movie. I don't need a trailer, but I need some more substance, some more superhero substance in my life.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. Your guess is as good as mine, though.
Yeah.
Well,
appreciate it, as always, for having me on, Ray.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time.